Hi, Diana Frike here. I'm the host of the Gooder Podcast, where I get to talk with the powerhouse women in the food, beverage, and wellness industries, categories about their journeys to success and their insights on the industry. This episode is brought to you by Retail Voodoo, a brand development firm providing strategic brand and design services for brands in the food, wellness, and beverage industries. Our clients include Starbucks, Kind, REI, PepsiCo, High Key, and many other market leaders. So if your goal is to crush your competition by driving growth and disrupting the marketplace with new and innovative ideas, give us a call and let's talk. You can learn more at retail-voodoo.com. Well, today I get to introduce Caitlin Vanderhaeg, who is the president and CEO of Kidstar Nutrients, a Canadian nutritional supplements company that makes clean nutrients for kids and families. Her experience spans over a decade of supply chain and ingredient sourcing in the natural product industry. She also holds a bachelor's degree in education and social sciences, which I think is really important as we talk about some of the things that you're doing right now. And a mother of 3 daughters, Caitlin is an advocate for clean ingredients in kids' foods and supplements. Well, hello and welcome, Caitlin. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm okay. So you're in Canada. It is I'm going official. This is recorded. I'm going official favorite country in the world.
Love it.
Now, I have not been to all countries, so I have to put that, disclaimer on there. But where in Canada are you?
We are in Vancouver, BC.
Oh, you're in, so we're neighbors.
West Coast. Yes, we are.
We're neighbors. Yeah. Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay. Well, one of the first things I like to ask everybody is let's start before we get into you. Let's talk about your brand. What is Kidstar Nutrients and what does it stand for?
Well, Kidstar Nutrients is, as you said before, a clean supplement line for the entire family. Don't let the word kid fool you. We have something for everyone, from infants all the way to seniors. And really, the brand came to be because I was looking for something that for my own family, and I couldn't find it. So I knew that making a clean supplement line was going to resonate with all the parents that in Canada and hopefully the world.
Awesome. Well, Caitlin, let's go back in time a little bit because this is a newer brand. Why don't you tell us about the inspiration for Kidstar Nutrients and kind of the journey of starting it?
Well, for about 10 years, I was in the raw material side of the business. So I was in supply chain for now known as Smart Solutions, but previously known as Lorna Vanderhaeg Health Solutions. And I really got to know how to make amazing products, great ingredients, backed by science. And so then I had my own children throughout this process. And when I was looking for products for them, I came up empty-handed, even when I was back then. So once that company was sold and our office was closed and we moved on, I realized that the need was still there. And one of my daughters ended up having iron deficiency at the age of 2. And I searched high and low for a supplement. And really, she didn't like the taste of anything. And I actually didn't like the ingredients of any of the products available. So that really was the driving force of finding products that for everybody's families that they could take that their kids actually liked.
Well, so your timing is uncanny with the 2020 launch. I always normally when I ask this question, I always go, tell us a little bit about those early days. Your early days are a little bit different than other people. So maybe take us on a little bit of a journey. If you launched in 2020, things started to get rocky right around the time, maybe just before or in the middle of the launch. Tell us about those, that first year.
So we were set to go for 2020. We had our Canadian Health Food Association booth. We had everything ready. And actually the show was great. Got lots of buzz. Everyone knew we were happening and it was coming. And about 2 weeks later, everything closed. So we went from having back-to-back consumer events and trade shows and media to having absolutely nothing. So we really had to pivot right away and focus on the parents, because if we couldn't call stores and we couldn't go into stores and we couldn't get into trade shows, we really needed to make sure that the parents knew about our great products so they could go to the stores and almost be our own sales reps, because really we at the early days, we had nothing to go on. So we definitely pivoted right away. And then it kind of fluctuated. We had no choice. We got our website working better with SEO. We started reaching out to dietitians and mom bloggers to make sure that the word was getting out there so we didn't lose the momentum of our launch.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending what province you were in, and definitely with you guys, different states had different
Mhm.
rules. So
Yeah.
you could really see the sales were different based on what was happening with the
Yeah.
government. So
Yeah.
it was a very interesting first year, but we made it through. I think we had lid supply issues, ingredient supply issues, shipping delays, and of course, lockdowns and all these things. And then, of course, the
Yeah.
American dollar, Canadian dollar fluctuation. So I think every time something happened, everyone said to me, well, if you make it through this, you're going to make it. And so we've made it into 2 full years.
Yes.
So we feel very, very happy about actually making it through the
Yeah.
COVID cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and because of COVID, I think, what I have here in my notes is supplements are increasingly considered important for healthy living and immunity. And I think that accelerated with COVID. And as a category grows and matures, there's also a fair bit of confusion and noise about efficacy and functionality. Can you tell us a little bit about your philosophy of communicating about clean nutrients and supplements in this crowded space?
Definitely. We're lucky in Canada. We have a process called the NPN, so a natural
Oh,
product number. So there's a
oh,
little number on the front of the bottle. And so
okay.
every product goes through this process with Health Canada. And so whatever it says on the front of the bottle
Mhm.
is actually accurate because it has gone through the efficacy with the Canadian government to ensure
Uh-huh.
that what you're getting and what's on the label is
Mhm.
true.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that's one great thing that we do have. That we can help relay to consumers. But
Yeah.
the other thing is, especially with social media, we focus on educating consumers and retailers, basically the general public, through the education is through really the science. So we make sure that we attach those peer review journals. We make sure everyone sees that the research has been done, that there is merit behind it, and that taking these products really will help you. And the clean side of it, growing up, we've had some of the same brands in the early 80s that we still have today.
Yeah.
And they have not changed. They haven't
Mhm.
changed the medicinal ingredients or the non-medicinal ingredients.
Mhm.
And you know what? They are in a position where they can change. They have the economies of scale. They have this huge amount of money behind them. They
Mhm.
can make these products cleaner, and
Mhm.
they're just currently not doing it.
Mhm.
So really, we want to make sure that people know that there are better ingredients.
Mhm.
They are there. And yeah,
Mhm.
it takes some effort to change, but we can do it.
Well, so I'm curious, in your opinion, I mean, you were on the supply chain side, so you might have some different insights. Do you feel like the lack of desire to change is out of, I hate to use this word laziness, or maybe it's just ease to kind of keep things, or is it more of a margin issue and the re-education of consumers, or maybe something different?
I kind of think it's more the first. So, you're right. It's not lazy, but it's like status quo. Well, this is
Yeah.
how we do it. It
Yeah.
works. Why would
Mhm.
we change it?
Mhm.
Well, that's a big issue for, parents when they're like, why is there 7 fillers in this product?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Mhm.
Can
Mhm.
we not remove them? And if we
Mhm.
remove them, maybe that product would be cheaper. And
Mhm.
those products and those ingredients could be used because it's making it faster. So
I
efficiency
see.
on the manufacturing side.
Gotcha.
But once we make those changes and we look at new ingredients, that could have been like, oh, why haven't we been doing that all along? Now it's easier. Now it's cheaper. So you're right. It's kind of
Mhm.
like a status quo. Do we need to? No one's pushing the envelope.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what are those main questions? I don't know if you can think of a couple. I know you get lots of questions, but are there a couple, one or two that consistently come up, or maybe a fact or two when it comes to addressing some of these items around clean label for parents in the industry? Like, what do you find answering more frequently, or what do you wish was being answered more frequently?
So on the consumer side with parents, we actually get the opposite. We get a lot of thank you.
Oh.
Thank you for making this product. I've been looking for something like this.
Mhm.
Most of the stuff we find is full of XYZ, and we're just really happy. So the parent side
Gotcha.
is actually really awesome. We get great testimonials. We actually have a lot of parents that call saying our pediatrician has recommended that we do this.
Mhm.
We haven't been able to find anything.
Mhm.
Thank you for helping us
Mhm.
fill this need.
Mhm.
On the other side with manufacturers, I think a lot of it is they actually come back with saying, what can we use? What would you allow to put in the product?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to go through. So we actually go to a lot of trade shows throughout the year for ingredients, looking for alternatives to the status quo ingredients, which is actually a lot of fun at the same time.
Are you in channel? Or are you strictly DTC right now? I don't recall.
We're both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the retailer side, are you getting the similar kind of questions as the parents are asking, or are they different? Like what are they looking for to you to answer on a regular basis?
You know what? I don't know if we get too many different questions.
Okay.
We definitely have different products do very differently, like sales wise in different channels. It is shocking. We have people that are like, oh, that product just doesn't sell for us. And then we're like, wow, well, the online store, that's all they're selling.
Yeah,
so clearly there's a search engine thing happening where parents are looking for something and we pop up as their solution. So they're actively searching for the answer versus being in a store and maybe you're looking at a wall of supplements and you're not quite sure what you need to get.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest difference for the different channels. But question wise, a lot of it is, they want to make sure there really is nothing in the product. So they say, is this there? Did you use this? And we keep saying, no, we're not using those products.
And you've got a procedure, you've got a process by way of sort of a certification that is your validation there. So I love that. Right. So I'm curious now, let's step back a little bit because I'm always interested in people's career paths now. Kidstar Nutrients is relatively new, but you've been in the industry for a while. And I'm curious, when you look back, were there any experiences that you had that were maybe in the moment were not great, maybe lost opportunity or a mistake that sort of changed your trajectory and helped pivot you in this direction?
There's quite a few. So I actually was born into this industry. My mom is Lorna van der Haag, and she is a women's health expert in Canada. And she has been an educator for North America and parts of Europe for most of my life. So I actually kind of grew up in this industry, which is like a double-sided there because I actually, as a child, had no idea it was an industry. It was just my life. I was like, if people would say, oh, do you want this? And I'd be like, I don't know what that is. I'd be like, we didn't have that in the house. And so there's a lot of like, oh, but these things exist out there. I was always on the other kind of path, slow and steady. And then in high school, I started actually working for my mom when she was doing certain things. And there was always a family business and she's been an entrepreneur my entire life. So we've always been part of that. And then I got to university and I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to go into the health field. I'm going to do all these things. And then I got into university and I was like, oh, maybe this isn't what I want to do. But I loved educating. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep going ahead. And I love social sciences. So that basically just focused on why people do what they do. It's basically the basis of it. And there was a large economic portion of it on like why industry was where it was. So that part really interests me. So I kind of was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to become an educator. And I did. And I became a teacher for a few years. But then my mom actually started a different company and she was like, why don't you come work for me? And I was like, you know what? Yes. So I do every once in a while kick myself thinking I could have finished that science degree. And it would have probably pushed me down a different path.
It may have.
It could have opened some different doors here and there. But and then actually the second biggest part was about a few years into her having her own company, she said, are you going to want to take this over? And at that point, I was in my mid-20s, didn't really have too much of a huge plan ahead of me. I knew I liked what I was doing. And then I met my husband. We had 3 kids. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this is where I want to. I don't want to do this. But I didn't want to do this. Just I didn't want to follow in that and take it over. Also, if you've ever met my mom or anybody out there, it's a little of a daunting thing taking over your mother's.
For sure.
Going behind, stepping in her shoes. I loved the behind the scenes. It was my favorite thing. And she was very much all of it. And so I kind of was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to take it over. And so then she did move on and she eventually sold the company. And then of course, now here I am doing what I'm doing, which is basically the same thing, a different demographic, different kind of style. But
Yeah.
I definitely think that there was a few avenues that I could have branched out on along the way.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's so curious that you say this about your mom, because I think of any company that has a really established or strong personality leading, like, for example, Califia, that had Greg Steffapole as the leader for so long. And it was almost like, at least in the industry, they were synonymous. You said Greg and it was Califia and
yes.
one and the same. And I can imagine that maybe some of the concern for you was when you take over a brand that is your mother's persona, you have to step into that. And it might be daunting to kind of take on somebody else's persona. And then, do you change it? No, because people want it. I think that it
It's
could be a
true.
little bit tricky. So I wonder if that had a bit of a play to it.
Oh, I definitely think so. And
Mhm.
I would never want to fill her shoes. You can't.
Yeah,
She is
no.
amazing. And I
Mhm.
would rather walk next to her and
Mhm.
have, and be hand in hand as an entrepreneur
Yeah.
than really trying to be like, okay, now I'm going to be in this position. So I think that and I was also in my 20s. I was like, this is,
Yeah.
I wasn't ready yet.
Wasn't ready to get
Wasn't
serious.
ready.
Wanted to play
Yes.
a little bit more. I get that.
Exactly.
I get that. Yeah. So, well, so who's guiding you during this time? I always think you've got your mother, and of course, and perhaps you have a strong relationship, and I understand that she's a mentor. But are there any other people that have been instrumental to the development of this brand, or maybe who you look to now? What kind of advice have they provided you that you have found invaluable during the growth of this company?
I think I've been really lucky from being on the supply chain side that, I know manufacturers and I
Mm.
know the people that run the lines and I know the
Mhm.
people that sell the ingredients. So through the whole process, I get to call them up and say, this isn't running the way that I want it to. What am I
Mhm.
doing wrong? And so
Mm.
they actually say things like, okay, well, it's this or it's this. You should really
Mhm.
try this. We've
Mhm.
been noticing the same thing. And same with raw
Mhm.
material, they'll say, oh, actually, we have new things coming up, or
Mm.
we've changed this, or
Yeah.
like anything like that, or there's
Mhm.
research coming out that you're going to really want to see. So I've been
Gotcha.
able to kind of call the people that are at the source of each kind
Nice.
of avenue and then
Mhm.
get really where I need to go.
Mhm.
I'm really lucky because of my mom that when I grew up in the industry, she had her peers around all the time.
Right.
So it was
Mhm.
really great to see everybody else that's very knowledgeable in all their
Mhm.
different fields.
Mhm.
And, when I run into them, I get to ask them questions that, many people may not want to ask. But,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you've known me since I was a little kid and I need an answer. And so
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned from my mom and from all these people is you have to ask those questions. If you have a question, ask someone
Mhm.
because, you really want to get the experience of people who've come before you. And,
Yeah.
in Canada, we have about, that I know of,
Mm.
about 4 or 5 big companies that are all run by women, the female
Mm.
CEOs or founders,
Mhm.
and they're still around today and they're amazing companies. And I think
Mhm.
that I'm really lucky to have had those women
Mhm.
pave ways
Yeah.
for us in the next generation.
Yeah.
And also then for my daughters to step in. And it's like,
Yes.
it's just a woman. It's not, hey, wow, we have this, women finally.
Yeah.
It's a person.
Yeah.
It's just right, just like you said, normalizing the women being in the room. And they
Mhm.
have really done a great job of
Mhm.
paving the way for the rest of us.
That's brilliant. I can really appreciate that. I'm wondering, in this moment right now, you've talked about, you've got a lot of, um you've got a different path than a lot of people, just having grown up in the industry the way that you have. And it might be hard to kind of nail down just one of these, but I'm curious what you're really most proud of right now. And it could be with Kidstar Nutrients, it could be in something else, but I always like to ask that question.
I have a few things I think that I'm quite proud of
Mhm.
right now, and mainly with Kidstar. So I think the biggest part is that, recently we got into Whole Foods in Canada, and
Oh,
the
wow,
process
great.
is a long process. And when
Mhm.
I was there helping put the products on the shelf, I stood back and I looked at that shelf and I thought to myself, wow, your product is next to all those big guys, the big companies
Yeah.
out there. And I thought to myself, well, I am there. I got it on the shelf, obviously with my team, but like it's there. There, and it's amazing. And just being able to pan across and see all the competitors and being like, I am one of them. And that's amazing. And that was pretty much, I think I stood there for a while and just stared at that wall and like, we did this and this is amazing.
Yeah. Just getting to market or getting to shelf. I mean, all of our listeners, I won't say all of our listeners, we have a good mix of listeners that are early stage, mid stage, and then some people who've never been in an entrepreneurial brand. They've been with big CPG their whole life. And even then, even in those moments when I can say birth a new brand, seeing it on shelf for the first time is something pretty amazing. I think for an entrepreneur, especially so, because your fingers are in so many different areas in order to make that happen. So I think I can appreciate that moment in time when we work with brands. Sometimes we get to sit alongside them when that happens too, and the energy just radiates. So that's pretty awesome.
It is. I love it. And then the other part is actually, so on our vehicle, we have a little logo, just to self-promote the company as well as we drive around town. And I love the fact that my daughters actually are one of my biggest fans. They kind of turn that's my mom's company. Yeah. And I'm going to run a company one day. And this is great. And I love it. And I'm like, every time they say it, I'm always like, yes, you are. If you want to run a company, you're going to run a company. Yeah. And you can do it. There's nothing stopping you.
You got a little swagger going on, Mom. I love it. Okay. So what advice do you find yourself giving others on a similar journey?
Number one is depending if you have a family at home or not, a big part is having a support system. So for us in Canada, we do have maternity leave. So we get the first 12 months where you have support and some financial. Yeah. But, after that, you have to find someone, either a family member or someone for your children to go. Yeah. Because you do need to have access to childcare, whatever form it is. We do need childcare because someone has to look after your children and you want to leave them in trusting hands. Yeah. So that is huge. In Canada, we are trying for universal childcare.
Oh, that would be
gotten very close. I believe we've now approved it, but it's like a 5-year rollout. And so it's like a $10 a day daycare style. And it has some holes, but it is amazing that we've gotten to that point. So I think that is huge, having you're at home you don't have to worry every 5 minutes that your home is also having issues. So that's big. And really the partner you choose. I think this is huge. If you do not have a supportive partner at home, I think that having an entrepreneurial business will be very difficult because you then you don't want to be, again, fighting with your home life. Yeah. The balance is not perfect. You're never going to have this perfect balance, but if you have support at home and you have in all forms, then, you're not fighting the at home as well, which is, I think it's huge. Who we choose to have in our lives and support us is a big portion. Like we hear a lot at these women's breakfasts that we go to, where a number of people, they end up divorcing and they have these issues. And it's because, you have a dream. You have two dreams. You have your family dream and you have your entrepreneurial dream. Yeah. And, it's really hard to do that if you don't have the support.
Well, so I'm going to, let's do a little not a devil's advocate here, but let's talk this through for a minute, because I remember speaking with Kira Dilly. She's SVP over at Frito-Lay and part of a program that helps women entrepreneurs get their business off the ground. And she provided some sort of statistic, which I don't recall off the top of my head, that said some really significant percentage of women-owned startups are single moms. What? So
I believe it.
Because they find that they feel like there's the greatest amount of flexibility in order to provide a future for their children in that particular way. So like when I hear you say find a good partner, what happens? Like what kind of advice can we give from your perspective for those women that are in transition of partners? So find your network, I think, is what I think you heard, is like find that support for your children. And maybe it might be unconventional. Like it might be not an auntie. It might be, I'm not sure what. Anything else that you can think of that would be valuable? Just, I know it's hard because you're not in those shoes, but just kind of from your POV, what else might we consider as being valuable input for those single moms?
Yeah, you're right. And like I was raised by a single mom. So,
Yeah.
and she was,
Oh.
and that was also, so she was this huge entrepreneur and
Yeah.
obviously taking off while we
Yeah.
were little.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of who's going to look after the kids. And that's why I say, having that support
Yeah.
network, because
Yeah.
if you have to go to work
Yeah.
or you have odd hours, what's
Yeah.
going to happen? Right.
Yeah.
So, I think the biggest thing is, making sure that you make time for both. If you're the single mom,
Yeah.
you just have to, it's a lot more work.
Yeah.
Because you're doing two things at once when you're
Yeah.
at home because
Yeah.
you have to. And then
Yeah.
when you're at work, you're probably doing two things at once as well. Because
Probably
making sure
more
they're
than
okay.
two.
I know. I remember when cell phones became the
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
And my mom got me one because I'm the youngest of four. And it was actually because she wanted to know where I was when she
Yeah.
was at work. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like any other reason. It was, I can call them.
Yeah.
And they are there. They're safe. They can tell me where they are
Yeah.
because she was at work traveling and she got to go to some amazing places
Yeah.
around the world.
Yeah.
And as we got older, obviously it was significantly easier. But
well, what I'm hearing though, based off of what you just said, is you are a daughter of a single mom and a single mom who had multiple children, and there is success. Like, do not be afraid.
oh no, yeah.
Do not be afraid, and bring your kids along for the journey might be part of it. I don't know how that might be, but maybe that is like a learning for those women that are like on the edge of, am I insane for considering this?
No, you're definitely not insane. I would say go for it.
Yeah.
One day at a time, take it and run with it.
Yes.
But I do agree with you. Take the kids with you, even metaphorically, because if your kids call you and you're in a meeting, I'm sure everyone knows you have children. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Answer that call. It's going to be 5 seconds. Hang up the call, get back to the meeting because you are their parent.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And I don't think we should be ashamed for having children.
Yeah.
We're in the business. We have kids.
Yeah.
Show it.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay that they called. It's okay that they got sick. It's okay that you're at home with them.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be so worried about pretending like we can do it all and we have no kids.
Have some strange facade.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I call it the 90s facade, when I was beginning my professional career in the 90s, and it was still kind of a continuation of the 80s where it was all women that dressed and looked like men, short hair, business suits with big shoulder pads.
Yes.
And we, the women were not allowed to show their feelings or anything like that. So we've come a long way from there, but I still think that for whatever reason, there's a little bit of that historical legacy that lives in the ecosystem, and we should just shed it. Like, yes, we are all parents. Yep. Let's just manage and have compassion for single parents in general, male or female. Yep. Like, all good. I love that.
I completely agree. And then, don't forget about the women that don't have children, because it is just as hard to become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Just being female. And for those women, it's the same thing. Get a network, great ideas, find a mentor, find many mentors in different avenues. And you know what? And go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ask lots of questions like your mom said.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to, because you learn so much from even just different perspectives on the answer. You learn. You're like, I never would have thought of it that way. Is a lot of the answer. Yeah, like both answers are correct, but maybe you never have thought about it from that angle before.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's share what's next for you or Kidstar Nutrients. What's up?
So right now we are hoping to launch in the next 12 months into the US.
Okay.
So that's our big part. So we actually realized that through our SEO that a lot of our customer base is actually American.
Really?
But of course they contact us. We're like, we currently can't ship. So we've been finding, other online stores do ship to the US, but we haven't been able to. So we're really working hard to support our American friends to get our products across the border. And also for me personally, I I love ingredients. So I've been on the hunt for new and exciting ingredients to see what else is out there and to launch some great new products for really expanding the line, making sure that at every stage of our lives, there's something for you to take, because really that's what we need: clean supplements for every age. Our needs do not go away as we grow. But the biggest part is, educating young families, getting everyone started early in knowledge and education, so that as they get older, they know. So you don't find at 25, oh, I've never realized that I had low iron, and that's why I felt horrible for the last 25 years. So we really want to get that education in early.
Yeah, agreed. And I think we still don't know how to, I don't know, maximize. This sounds like a productivity thing that I'm about to say, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form, but I think supplements and filling in the gaps, especially when we have kids that go through those eating phases where they won't eat a balanced diet because whatever is going on, and stubbornness or just an intolerance for a flavor profile or a taste or something like that, that we don't know how much more assistance we can give our kids with sleeping well and learning well and adjusting to life and emotions. And I think supplements are a really great tool to help their kids go through those growing phases, so that once they become adults, they have everything. Well, hopefully they have everything they need to kind of live a happy and fulfilled life. So I'm a big fan of supplements for the kiddos.
And you're right. You definitely got the point there. It's supplementing. The entire point is you're supplementing the diet. So if you aren't eating it, your kids aren't eating it, they're not getting it.
Yeah.
So it fills the gaps, and we need to fill the gaps with clean nutrients, because what is the point of giving your child a nutrient that's supposed to make them healthy, that's covered in sugar or artificial colors and flavors? Europe has banned a good amount of artificial colors and flavors and preservatives. And Canada and the US are definitely very far behind. So, we need to do something about it. And if it ends up being the brands need to do it. The brands need to ban it for themselves. So that the government's like, oh, really? This is huge. We need to do this. We need to follow suit. Like, why don't the brands everyone just ban it in the industry? Write a little note to yourself and say, this is gone. We're not using it. It doesn't exist.
Oh my gosh.
And we move on, because you're right. It's like, we need to do this.
It's time. Oh my gosh, Caitlin, I am really enjoying this conversation. Our time is getting close to wrapping up, but I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask everybody. One is about trends, and it could be in your category or our industry or not, but I'm curious what you're following right now and why.
So we actually have noticed that we think we're creating the trend in our group here. So we really did start the clean nutrient kind of push in Canada for us and kids. And we've actually seen a number of big brands copy our products already in the last 2 years. So it's been very interesting seeing them pop up. Very similar products right next to ours. So we're seeing that the big guys are noticing what we're doing, and our niche market is becoming less niche. I think that with everything, the trend really should be clean. We've been noticing the organic trends. And that's been gaining and gaining and gaining in our food industry. It needs to move into the processed foods and the supplement area.
Absolutely.
So that's the biggest thing that we're doing. And then besides that, I would say, just great quality products. I actually think there's so many amazing ingredients out there that have been around for so long, and they just need attention. They need to be brought back and say, hey, we're still here. This is amazing. Get back to the basics and use some of the ingredients that have always been around. So we're kind of a little bit of a backwards trend, bringing the old new again, and staying on the clean trend.
What in particular are you? I mean, do you have your eyeball on, or can you say?
Well, I was really lucky. So last year, I was looking at an ingredient to make a few products with. And we ended up through that getting an exclusive on the ingredient. Which was amazing for Canada. So we have the exclusive for Magicare in Canada, which has been around since the 90s. And actually, I remember it coming to Canada in the 90s, and I've been taking the ingredient for most of my life.
Yeah.
So when we got the exclusive through Kidstar, it really was almost like bringing new life into it, making it cool again.
Wow.
So it was like, you know what, these ingredients are here. And sometimes when the noise dies down, we forget about them, but they're still there and they're still amazing. So that was great for us. And then even simple things like iron, it's been around, but no one's talking about why it's so important. And, all that around that. So we've been able to, refocus everyone's energy and say, this is really important. You need to be paying attention.
I love it. Okay. The next question is, are there any women leaders or rising stars out there in our industry or not that you would like to elevate or simply admire for the work that they're doing right now?
Well, there are a number of them, I have to say. It's vast. And I actually think that LinkedIn has been amazing for that, because I get to see different areas. So like the food industry, and I'm, watching the food industry happening, and they're blowing up, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
For us, particularly with Kidstar, we work with a lot of registered dietitians, holistic nutritionists, and even some OBGYNs. And so those women actually I'd love to mention, because they're actually the ones that are directly with the consumers. They're making sure everyone knows, they're educating at that level. And I think those women definitely need a shout out. So, we have Noelle Martin's a dietitian. She's out of Ontario. Okay. And we have some two amazing OBGYNs from She Found Motherhood, and they are on Vancouver Island.
Okay.
They're great. We have Jen Messina. She's a registered dietitian. She does some awesome work out of BC. And then also Andrea Saliba. She's a registered holistic nutritionist, and she does a lot of positive affirmations and workouts, and basically just getting yourself to love yourself and get out there. So, there's some all with the holistic background. So I think it's wonderful to, we need to promote the women that are also promoting us, because that's the most important level. I think that we really need to remember that these people and these women are doing amazing work.
Agreed. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing those women and the work that they do. It's awesome. For me, that's my favorite question to ask, because I never know what the response will be. And most of the time it's somebody that's not really not directly related with the business. Sometimes it's tangentially, just like what you've done. And then other times it's somebody that's completely, out of the ballpark. And that's my favorite way to be inspired, is to hear that feedback. Thank you. Well, we've been talking with Caitlin Vanderhaeghe, President and CEO of Kidstar Nutrients. Caitlin, where can people learn more about you and your brand?
KidstarNutrients.com has everything about our brand, and also Kidstar Nutrients on Instagram and Facebook. We do some awesome social media information and education through that. But the website really has everything you'd need to know about us.
Okay, great. And one thing that I didn't mention earlier that I really loved on your website is the black hole ingredients. If you guys, this is where the whole education, and I'm so sorry I didn't bring this up earlier. Those of you guys that want to see how simple you can talk about supplements, nutrients, and clean label, we work with hundreds and hundreds of brands, and I talk with many, many people, but I will say that your website just does a great job of distilling it down, taking all the rhetoric out and making it really understandable. So thank you for doing that. I would love to see more of it in this particular category of our industry, but I wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was fun. It was actually a lot of fun writing that portion of the website. Yeah, because you're right. It is very simple. It is simple. And of course, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that's not simple, but what you need to pass on is a very simple message.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? Through that, actually, we found, and when we were making the product line, that there are ingredients within the ingredients.
Right.
Within those ingredients
right.
in the manufacturing line.
Yes.
And it was shocking how many we had to cross off. And we were like, can't use that, can't use that, can't use that. And everyone kept saying, why? And we'd be like, no, because you're using this to make it.
Yes.
And so, it really does cut down on your ingredient list.
Sure does.
In the end, but it's really important.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Caitlin. I'm so happy to have spent this time with you, and I look forward to seeing what you're doing through all the great work out there. And I want to thank all of you listeners for your time today. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you next time on the Gooder Podcast.
Produced by Heartcast Media.